All right, I was gonna do rolling dice tonight, but my voice is just killing me. So let's just do how to talk to your DM, and then we're gonna close it out there. Okay, so I have played a lot of Dungeons and Dragons, and from my experience, players do not communicate their needs with their dungeon master enough. I acknowledge that I run a lot of players for the first time, like people that I've never interacted with. So that may have something to do with it. Hopefully it's not because I'm creating an environment where they don't want to communicate. Hopefully that's not the case. But I'm hoping that it's just because I'm running new people. But it's important to have that environment to where where your players want to communicate with you as a DM, because being a DM is a lot like being in a relationship with those players. And if you ever punish them for communicating with you, uh, um, if you ever punish your players for like expressing themselves, then they're not going to want to do that. And just like in a relationship, if your partner doesn't feel like they can communicate with you, dead in the water, no shot. So it's the same thing with your players. And some examples. So this video is mainly for players that want to communicate, or advice for players to communicate with their DM. But DMs should acknowledge the fact that they need to create an environment for players to want to communicate with them. So why do I say that, and what do I mean by communicating with your DM? There are things that you want from your character that your DM may not know. It may not be obvious to you. And I can just throw some examples right off the bat. There may be a specific monster in the monster manual that you've always wanted to fight. There may be a magic item that you've always wanted to have, a spell, all kinds of things. It's important that you communicate the things that you want to your DM. No matter how, as a DM, I can tell you, no matter how ridiculous your request is, tell me and I will weave it into my game. For example, I have played a game. I was really big into Sekiro at the time of this game. For those of you that don't know, Sekiro, Shadows Die Twice. It is a FromSoft game where you play as like a shinobi and you get your arm cut off and you got to run around with a prosthetic. I was really into Sekiro when I was playing this D&D game. So I drew up a monk and modeled him after Sekiro. And I asked my DM specifically if at some point in the game I could have my arm chopped off and get a prosthetic. It sounds weird, right? But I thought that would be really cool to have like a prosthetic. I'm going for the Sekiro vibe. And my DM took that one step further, and had me duel another shinobi with a katana. And it was like, it was awesome. It was really cinematic. So that's kind of an example of something that I've done where I communicate with my DM and I was like, this is really rewarding. So do that. Do you still have any of the prosthetic details? You talking about all the shinobi, like all the abilities that Sekiro gets? Like if it had attachments? See, I wasn't thinking, so me personally, I wasn't thinking that far. Because that sounded more like I wanted benefits for having, like, all I wanted was for it to like have a cinematic event happen where my arm gets cut off and I had to go and either build my own. So I asked the DM specifically, I can't remember where we landed on it because it was a while ago, but I remember asking the DM specifically if I could learn how to build a prosthetic arm and then go through the process of crafting it myself, or if I ended up finding one in a shop. I honestly don't remember. You just wanted to story and aesthetic of it. Exactly. Yeah. I just wanted to, yeah. Which is why I was really comfortable with asking this, because I wasn't asking for anything mechanical. Well, actually, technically I was asking for something mechanical because I was asking for a magic. I mean, it's technically a magic item. But yeah, I was just like, yeah, like, and I told my DM, I like laid it all out for him. I was like, look, I'm playing Sekiro, and I want to get that like FromSoft arm cut off and get like an awesome prosthetic, and I want a katana. They're like, yeah. So they totally put that together. It was awesome. I love that. I would love for players to do that for me. If there's a monster, because otherwise I'm just gonna come up with stuff, or I'm just gonna run the module. If I see a player doing something, going in a direction, and I can pick up on the direction that they're going, I will facilitate everything I can for that direction. So for example, I saw most recently one of my players is playing a not a sea elf, not a triton, water genasi. One of my players is playing a water genasi paladin. So I started adding, and they did like a lot of aquatic aesthetics with their armor. I was like, okay, that's why I made changes to the tridents, and I added some sound effects, some sea like sound effects for their smite. Like whenever they smite, I do like a thunderclap whenever they smite. When you imagine a paladin smiting, you usually have like this holy radiant light, but because they were doing like a sea theme, I wanted to make it more, just like helping the player along to achieve, their vision. If you communicate things like that with your DM, you can go so much farther. That was just what I picked up on from watching them play. Sometimes some players may want to ride a unicorn, incorporate a unicorn. Some players have always wanted to fight a beholder or a mind flayer. Find a way to make that work. Would you allow a player to learn how to build a weapon without going into artificer? Sure. All right, wait. Would I allow a player, let me answer this like directly. Would you allow the players to learn how to build a weapon without going into artificer? If there is an artificer in the party, no. I would have the artificer learn how to build the weapon because that's thematic for an artificer, and they would build that weapon for the party. So for example, in that game that I described where I was a monk and my arm got cut off, if we had had an artificer in the game, I would have requested that the DM have that artificer build me an arm instead of me building it myself. But because we didn't have an artificer or we didn't have anybody that was thematically a crafter, I built it myself. Oh, that'd be cool. But if there was somebody in the game that was their thing, crafting stuff was their thing, they should be the one to do it. Make them because that's their thing. That's like, this is what my character, this is my class fantasy. I'm an artificer. I like building stuff. I would 100% move that towards them. What player doesn't want to ride a unicorn? Right. So if I have a player request that makes sense. Not force a story on another shopkeeper. Right. Yeah. How cool would it be if my arm got cut off and in D&D? How cool would it be if my arm got cut off in D&D and then the DM was like sends a message to the player like, hey, you think that you can solve this issue by creating a prosthetic. And then that becomes like a whole a whole arc for me and the artificer player to like go on this quest. The artificer's researching this schematic. The artificer's taking measurements of like my shoulder and my arm length to make sure that they match. Oh, that would be so cool. That would be so thematic. We didn't have an artificer in that game, but it would have been so cool. But yeah, stuff like that. So if there's a specific magic item that you want, write it down, give it to your DM, say, I want this. Do not, so I'm going to tell you as a DM, if you request a magic item that does nothing but increase the numbers, I'm just going to gloss over it. That's not going to be a priority. If you request, for example, a cloak of protection, ring of protection, the stat books, +1 weapon, all of these magic items that all they do is just have a straight stat increase, that's not interesting to me. That's boring. That just makes it to where that just makes the numbers go up. That doesn't change your gameplay at all. But if you say something like, I really want to have more mobility in combat. Can I have once per day Misty Step or something? That would be awesome. That I could see like thematic, or maybe you're doing like a specific thematic thing, like, oh, I'm a firebender. Can I have access to some of these fire cantrips? Heck yeah, dude. Heck yeah. Stuff like that. That like changes your gameplay style. Straight stat increases, that's boring. Like, okay, you got +1 AC. Do you feel better now? Like, all right, great. Has your character been fully fleshed out now that you have +1 AC? I only use stat increase. I don't mean to sound insulting. I only use stat increase items like that. Ring of protection, cloak of protection, stat books, +1 weapon. I only use those to bring up the weaker characters who haven't built their characters as strong as other players. Like maybe you're in a group of people and some of them min-maxed and some of them didn't, or maybe there's a new player who's still figuring things out and their character's kind of weak. They're not doing as much damage as the other characters. They're really falling behind. I'm going to give them straight stat increases. I'm just going to straight influx, +1 weapon, ring of protection, whatever. So using it to even out power levels. Exactly. I use those stat increase magic items to even out the power levels. Yeah, the boots of stride and springing are pretty good. I think those increase your jump. But see, like a ring of jumping would be a good example. Like, oh, DM, I want to do like this kind of, I want to play a ninja. Can I have a ring of jumping? Can you put a ring of jumping in the loot somewhere? Or the cloak of the bat or something? We're gonna do like some ninja stuff. I want to do ninja stuff. I want some throwing stars too. Maybe some poison. Like all that, dude. Like if I got that message, I tell you, if I got 2 messages from different players, one of them was like, hey, can I have a ring of protection +1? And the other one was like, hey, I'm playing a ninja. Can I get some shurikens with like some poison and maybe something to let me climb and like jump around rooftops and stuff? I'm going to eat that ninja's message up. I'm going to be like, yes, you're going to have all kinds of shadowy stuff. I'm going to put literal ninja clans in the game. You're going to have like, I'm going to take it and I'm just going to run with it. I'm going to go absolutely insane. There's going to be ninja clans. I'm going to come up with unique weapons. There's going to be like katas. I'm going to go play Ninja Gaiden and like pull a whole bunch of weapons from that. I'm going to go absolutely insane. The person that sent me the question, like, hey, can I have a +1 weapon? We'll see. Yeah, like a pouch, maybe a pouch of throwing stars that they can refill, like it refills every day. Oh man, so cool. Or a returning shuriken.